Good morning. I know today is Tuesday, and I normally do this reading on Sundays. I got behind on my posting, so I hope you forgive me. And we are reading Joyce Meyer's Battlefield of the Mind, Chapter 17, Wilderness Mentality Number 2. Someone do it for me. I don't want to take the responsibility. And Terah took Abram his son, Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth together to go from Ur of the Chaldees into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Genesis 11:31. Responsibility is often defined as our response to God's ability. To be responsible is to respond to the opportunities that God has placed in front of us. God gave Abram's father a responsibility, a chance to respond to his ability. He placed before him the opportunity to go to Canaan, but instead of going all the way with the Lord, he chose to stop and settle in Haran. It is fairly easy to be excited when God first speaks to us and gives us an opportunity to do something. But like Terah, many times we never finish what we start because we get into it and realize there is more involved than goosebumps and excitement. Most new ventures are exciting simply because they are new. Excitement can carry a person along for a while, but it will not take him across the finish line. Many believers do what the Bible says Terah did. They start out for one place and settle somewhere else along the way. They can't, when they get tired or weary, they would like to finish their course, but they really don't want all the responsibility that goes with it. If someone else would do it for them, they would love to reap the benefits, but it just does not work that way. Personal responsibility can't be delegated. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, these people have sinned a great sin and have made themselves gods of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray you, out of your book which you have written." Exodus 32:30 through 32. In my reading and study, I noticed that the Israelites did not want to take responsibility for anything. Moses did their praying. He sought God for them. He even did their repenting when they got themselves in trouble. See Exodus 32:1 through 14. A baby has no responsibility at all, but as the child grows up, he is expected to take more and more responsibility. One of the main roles of a parent is to teach their children to accept responsibility. God desires to teach his children the same thing. The Lord gave me an opportunity to be in full-time ministry to teach his word on international radio and television, to preach the gospel all over the United States and in other nations. But I can assure you that there is a responsibility side to that call that many know nothing about, nothing of. A lot of people say they want to be in ministry because they think it is continual spiritual event. Many times people apply for a job in our ministry thinking that the greatest thing that could ever happen to them would be to become a part of a Christian ministry. Later they discover that they have to work there the same as any other place. They have to get up and get there on time, come under authority, follow a daily routine, etc. When people say they want to come to work for us, we tell them that we don't float around on a cloud all day singing the Alleluia chorus. We work, and we work hard. We walk in integrity, and we do what we do with excellence. Of course, it is a privilege to work in ministry, but we try to make the point to new applicants that when the goosebumps and excitement have subsided, they will find us expecting high levels of responsibility from them. Go to the ant. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which, having no chief, overseer, or ruler, provides her food in the summer and gathers her supplies in the harvest. How long will you sleep, O sluggard? When will you arise out of your sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to lie down and sleep. So will your poverty come like a robber, or one who travels with slowly but surely approaching steps, and your want like an armed man, making you helpless. Proverbs 6 through 11. This lazy mindset that the Israelites had was one of the things that kept them in the wilderness 40 years, making an 11-day trip. I like to read this passage in Proverbs in which our attention is called to the ant, who, without having any supervisor or master, provides for herself and her family. People who must always have someone else pushing them will never really do anything great. Those who only do what is great when someone is looking won't get very far either. We must be motivated from within, not from without. We must live our lives before God, knowing that He sees all and that our reward will come from Him if we persist in doing what He has asked us to do. Many called, few chosen. For many are called, but few are chosen. Matthew 20:16. I once heard a Bible teacher say that this verse means that many are called or given an opportunity to do something for the Lord, but very few are willing to take the responsibility to answer that call. As I mentioned in a previous chapter, a lot of people with wishbone have wishbone, but no backbone. People with a wilderness mentality want to have everything and do nothing. Get up and go. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' minister, Moses, my servant is dead. So now arise, take his place, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land which I am giving to them, the Israelites. Every place upon which the sole of your foot shall tread, that have I given to you, as I promised. Moses. Joshua 1 through 3. When God told Joshua that Moses was dead and he was to take the place and lead the people across the Jordan into the promised land, it meant a lot of new responsibility for Joshua. The same is true for us as we go forth to claim our spiritual inheritance. You and I will never have the privilege of being used by God if we are not willing to take our responsibility seriously. Behold, now is a favorable time. He who observes the wind and waits for all conditions to be favorable will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. Ecclesiastes 11:4. In 1993, when God showed Dave and me that He wanted us to go on TV, He said, I am giving you an opportunity to go on television, but if you don't take the opportunity now, it will never pass by you again. Perhaps if God had not let us know that we needed to respond immediately, we might have procrastinated. After all, we were finally in a position where we could be comfortable. If we procrastinate long enough, sometimes God has to find someone else who will respond to his call right away. For 9 years, we had been in the process of birthing our ministry. Now, suddenly, God was giving us an opportunity to reach more people, which we wanted to do with all our heart. However, in order to do it, we would need to leave our comfortable position and take on new responsibility. When the Lord asked his people to do something, there is a temptation to wait for a convenient season. Acts 24:25. There is always the tendency to hold back until it won't cost anything or be so difficult. I encourage you to be a person who is not afraid of responsibility. In meeting resistance, you will build your strength. If you only do what is easy, you will always remain weak. God expects you and me to be responsible and to take care of everything He gives us, to do something with it that will produce good fruit. If we do not use the gifts and talents that He has given us, then we are not being responsible over what He has entrusted to us. Be prepared. Watch, therefore, give strict attention, and be cautious and active, for you know neither the day nor the hour when the Son of Man will come. Matthew 25:13. Matthew 25 is a chapter in the Bible that teaches us what we are to be doing while we are waiting for the Master's return. First 12 verses show us 10 virgins, 5 who were foolish and 5 who were wise. The foolish did not want to do anything extra to be sure they were prepared to meet him when he returned. They did the bare minimum they could get by with. They did not want to go the extra mile, so they took only the amount of oil they needed for their lamps. The wise virgins, however, went beyond what they absolutely had to do. They took extra oil to be sure they were prepared for a long wait. When the bridegroom came, the foolish found their lamps going out, and they, of course, wanted the wise virgins to give them some of their oil. This is usually the case. People who are lazy and procrastinating always want those who work hard and take responsibility to do for them what they should have been doing for themselves. Use what you've been given, you wicked and lazy and idle servant. Matthew 25:26. Matthew 25 then records a parable that Jesus told about 3 servants who were given talents that belonged to their master. The master then went away into the far country, expecting his servants to take good care of his goods while he was away. A man given 5 talents used them, invested them, and gained 5 more besides. The man given 2 talents did the same, but the man given 1 talent buried it in the ground because he was full of fear. He was scared to step out and do anything. He was afraid of responsibility. When the master returned, he commended the 2 servants had taken what he had given them and had done something with it. But to the man who buried his talent and had done nothing with it, he said, You wicked and lazy and idle servant. He then ordered that the 1 talent to be taken from him and given to the man with the 10 talents, and that the lazy, idle servant be severely punished. I encourage you to respond to the ability that God has placed in you by doing all that you can with it, so that when the Master returns, you can not only give him what he has given you, but more besides. The Bible clearly shows us that it is God's will for us to bear good fruit. See John 15:16. Casting care, not responsibility. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, and he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. 1 Peter 5:6-7. Don't be afraid of responsibility. Learn to cast your care, but not your responsibility. Some people learn to not worry about anything, becoming experts at casting their care. They get so comfortable that they also cast their responsibility. Set your mind to do what is in front of you and not to run from anything just because it looks challenging. Always remember that if God gives you whatever you ask him for, there is a responsibility that goes along with it, with the blessing. If you own a home or a car, God expects you to take care of it. Laziness may attack your mind and your feelings, but you have the mind of Christ. You certainly can recognize the devil's deception and press past your feelings and do what you know is right. Asking for something is easy. Being responsible for it is the part that develops character. I recall a time when I kept trying to talk to my husband into buying a lake house, a place where we could go to rest, pray, and study, a place to get away from it all. I told him how wonderful it would be, how our children and grandchildren could enjoy it, and even how we could take our leadership there and have business meetings and glorious times in prayer together. All sounded good, and I felt good to my emotions, but Dave kept telling me everything we would have to do to take care of it. He reminded me of how busy we already were and that we did not have time to be responsible for another home. He told me about the lawn care, the upkeep, the payments, etc. He said we would be better off to rent a place when we needed to get away and not take on the responsibility of owning one. I was looking at the emotional side of the issue, and he was looking at the practical side. Anytime we make a decision, we should look at both sides, not just what will be enjoyable, but the responsibility it will require. A lake home is perfectly fine for those who have the time to put into it, but we really didn't. Deep down, I knew that. But on and off for a year, I tried to talk Dave into buying one. I'm glad he stayed firm. If he hadn't, I am sure we would have bought the place, kept it for a while, complained a lot about having to take care of it, and probably ended up selling it because it was too much work. As it turned out, friends of ours bought a lake home and let us use it as our schedule and theirs permitted. Several years later, we were in a position to own a place of our own, and it was the right time to move forward. But when I first wanted a lake house, it would have been the wrong time in our lives to buy one. Wanting something is not enough. We must also be fully prepared to take responsibility for it. If you use wisdom, you will find God meeting your needs. Anyone operating in the mind of Christ will walk in wisdom, not emotions. Be responsible. Okay, that's the end of chapter 17. Thank you for reading with me, and I will post this with some writing from me. Thank you, and have a great week.